This is the Internet Court of Truth and Lies, and its purpose is if you got something in the media that you think is true or you think it's a lie, then you can bring your accusation or your decision to up to 8 jurors who can evaluate what you've said and give their views on whether what you think is the truth and or what you think is a lie. And the way we do that, the way we structure the dialogue, is we have 8 standard verdict questions, which are never exactly the right questions for whatever is the content of the trial is. But the questions are meant to be good for any truth or lie. So it tends to keep people on track as to whether or not something is the truth or a lie. That's what Truth Court is. The value is both to the plaintiff who's making the case and the jurors and anybody else who watches to see how people think about these things. It turns out that most often somebody will surprise the plaintiff with a viewpoint that was unexpected. And often you get a number of people whose viewpoints will surprise the plaintiff and the jurors will disagree. There's no final verdict in the Internet Court of Truth and Lies. The purpose of the dialogue is the dialogue itself. And we don't ask people to agree that they have been convinced by the plaintiff or any of the jurors. That's a completely different purpose. The real purpose is to let people see how other people are thinking. So today we've got a trial on something that sounds like it shouldn't be a truth court case, but I actually think it is one. And it's how to name your humanoid car. I've been doing AI, machine learning, what's called perceptron theory, what other people call it neural network coding since the late 70s, and coding the neural nets the way they're coded with LLMs like ChatGPT and Gemini and so forth, Claude, since '83. I had watched the Teslas that had this thing that was called full self-driving. And I had some opportunities basically with Uber to watch drivers attempt to use the full self-driving over the last 4 or 5 years. It was what I expected. It wasn't full self-driving. It was fancy things like lane keeping and distance keeping to the car in front of you and stuff like that, but nothing like being able to drive you anywhere you wanted to go. Until recently, I was seeing that apparently it was working because I was going to make a 700-mile trip, and I'd heard that it was really good for trips because you didn't have to drive. I found out that these cars were inexpensive, so I went and bought a Tesla. I bought a most current version of the 26 Model Y, which is a small SUV that you can sleep in. So if you wanted to take long trips, you could take long trips in it.
Which you have to when the battery runs out.
No, you don't wait until you see these things.
Okay.
I was stunned. For example, the first neural nets in autonomous vehicles that we built was for steering control, controlling the steering of a car. And we built that back in '83 or '84. A guy named Dean Parmelo built it. He was a graduate student at CMU, robotics. It worked beautifully, except the vision systems would get confused and it would steer the car to hit trees because it thought the tree was the road, things like that. I was also involved in the DARPA programs where we had the grand challenges for different research labs doing autonomous vehicles. I'd had a lot of experience with autonomous vehicles. I wanted to see what this one was like. And when I bought it, I was quickly stunned. I bought it from a Tesla dealership about 35 miles from my home. The roads from that location to my home involved several extremely busy interstates that day in a raging thunderstorm, with traffic going through at 5 p.m. in the afternoon through the center of Pittsburgh. I had to cross all of Pittsburgh to get from the Tesla place to my home. And the damn thing drove the whole way from the parking lot at Tesla to my driveway at home without me touching the steering or the brakes. And I was stunned. I knew it was doing what it was doing, but I couldn't believe that it was able to do what it did. It did go very slow when everybody else was going slow or stopping in the raging thunderstorm, which was part of the 45 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever it was to get home. But it knew to go slow, and it did get very close to pulling over in the raging thunderstorm, but it didn't ever actually pull over, which was crazy. It was going very slow for a while the storm was going. But then all the other cars were doing basically the same thing. Everybody was caught in the same storm. Later, I made that long trip, and it was from Pittsburgh to Atlanta in this car. And again, I basically never touched the steering wheel or the brakes from my home in Pittsburgh, the 700 miles through interstates and back roads and construction and everything you could possibly imagine, to my family's home in North Georgia, where a bunch of family kids were coming. The majority of the kids, 7 or 8, were between the ages of 6 and 12 years old. One of the things I did during the week, I took them on drives. I would tell the car to drive to a Walmart or to Home Depot or something. And these would be 4 or 5 mile drives from the location that I was at. I drove initially a couple of kids, and then the kids started talking to the kids. By the time the week was getting close to ending, all the kids had talked to the kids, and I was overwhelmed with kids wanting to ride more in the whole self-driving car. And so one of the things that dawned on me was that when I bought the car, I originally named him Jeff for no good reason other than it's a name that I used. I realized that what I was staring at was a revolution that most people have not yet experienced, but once you experience it, you realize this is a complete revolution. It's like getting in an elevator and coming out at another floor. You get into the car, you just say where you want to go, and a little while later, after you've enjoyed the scenery of going there, you get out of the car and you're there. It's crazy. One of the things you notice very quickly is you notice how safe the car is, how safely it's driving. Even though I'd had all this experience with autonomous vehicles, I was scared out of my mind watching what it was doing, because I would see a telephone pole ahead of me and just wondering whether it was going to make the turn. And it always makes the turn. It just drives beautifully. But the first number of weeks, probably over a month, I was not confident. And then after that 700-mile drive, I'd grown pretty confident and was not bothered. I could trust the car to at least keep me out of accidents and to drive safely. So one of the things these cars do, no matter how fast you ask the car to go, there's one example of the safety, is it will always stop at a stop sign. Stop fully at a stop sign. You can give it a little nudge to go through a stop sign if you want to, by just touching the accelerator pedal a little bit. It'll nudge it to go through if you think that it's safe to go through, even though it's stopped. But it stops and then goes a little bit further, looking both ways and very carefully deciding whether it can take a left or a right or go ahead through the intersection. That's just one example, but there are lots of examples where you notice that it's done the safest thing that it could have done in that circumstances, the circumstances that it was put in. And it was making the right decisions, which was just crazy. That's when I decided these things are going to be seen as humanoid because they are just like a humanoid robot driving your car. And you could talk to it. So I sat down with a bunch of real experts, a bunch of kids between 6 and 12 years old. This is at the end of the week. We were just sitting down after dinner or something, and I had a scratch pad, and I asked them for some good names for the brand new Tesla FSD Model Y with the most advanced version. Most of them had been on rides with me using FSD to drive a few miles, including country roads and interstates. And the kids had talked a lot about those rides to each other. I had Grok in the car. He's got another name called Aura. You can call him Aura, call her Aura, call him Grok. The same thing, talking to you. Talking with them during the rides. I had Grok entertaining them about where they were driving by telling them additive stories that included both them by name, the kids that were in the car by name, and their ages, and the areas where they were being driven. So they were getting stories, including history lessons about the roads that they were driving on that FSD had never driven on before, what was nearby and what they could see and do and so forth. And these were storytellers. They were amazed that they were getting this stuff, and they were verifying some things that they knew. For example, we were near a lake, and it was talking about the lake, and they all knew about that lake. This was just amazing to them. I asked the kids, let's come up with some names for FSD cars. They came fast and furious with names, and as fast as I could write until I filled up my little scrap of paper, they came up with these names. I just alphabetized them: Banana, Boot Me. I had two kids who were older who came up with computer type names. So Boot Me was a computer type. Banana, Boot Me, Boonjana, which they laughed a lot, and I have no idea why they laughed. Candle Holder, Carbot, Chauffeur. Chauffeur was offered by an adult who was sitting by. And then Chowny, Code, Crash, The Thing, Doc, Namir, which we had discussions about Elon Musk with a couple of the kids. Flaggy, Goose, Home Runner, Anit, It, Itself, Jeeves, Jeeves X, Olu, Muskie, Natty, Packet, Person, Crackerbot. Crackerbot came from a kid. We were going down a country road, and mother and father duck were crossing the road with their little ducklings, and the friggin' FSD car stopped for them to cross the road. That's where Crackerbot came from. Reboot, Reset, Roadbot, Robo, Route, Chauffeur, Stat. Oh, somebody misspelled Chauffeur. Stat, Trippy, Tronut, Washington, Whippo. Basically what I said was, once the FSD gets around, we're going to find out that these cars get their own names. That's what my case is. The autonomous vehicles such as Tesla's FSD cars should have unique names suitable for humanoid AI drivers. So one of the things that I did notice about FSD in the existing Tesla is you could say, hey, Grok, or hey, you would get the car talking to you in English or whatever language you want. In fact, you could say, can you please speak Spanish to me, and it will do it in Spanish. And you can even say Chinese, and we'll talk in Chinese. Tell the story in Chinese, for example. But you can't set the name to a name you want. In other words, the existing software in the system does not let you. You have to say either "Hey Grok" or "Hey Ara" to get to talk to the car. You can't make up a name like Jeff and say, "Hey Jeff," doesn't respond. I thought that this would be something that was needed. I basically said that it's true that autonomous vehicles should be able to respond to appropriate names that the humans give the owner. The responsible person for that car should be able to give to the car. And the car does have explicit, you give it very explicit knowledge of who the drivers are that are allowed for the car. Not just anybody can drive the car. You have to be identified as the right person to be able to drive and command the car to do things and take control of the car. And there's technology built into the cars for doing it. Is the truth after this experience, I think it's a good idea only because the kids, after they'd ridden in these cars, had come up so fast with so many cool names so fast. That entire time where I was scribbling was maybe 10 minutes. They all wanted to name the cars. They thought that it was a great idea. Well, is it the whole truth? I said yes. The car should be nameable by a person or by one of the drivers, and perhaps each driver should be able to call it the car whatever the driver wants to call the car, and for that car, it would recognize that name. Is it nothing but the truth? I said yes. Basically, tell you the whole story here. What's the deceit? There's no deceit. Is it intended? The truth is intended. What's the motivation? I said it's just to be informative. This is great. Now, for the next 2 trials we've got more trials about FSD. I chose this one to be the first one because of this, to give you all an idea of what these things are like. What's the social acceptability of the truth or lie? And again, until you've experienced it, I have no idea who on the call may or may not have experienced this, but who have friends who've got these kind of cars. I have met a fair number of people who at least have friends. For example, my twin brother, he knows this president of Capital Cities Club, and he says he owns a Tesla with FSD. And he told me he talks about the FSD like I do. He says, "You're talking just like this guy talks." I said, "We're telling the truth." What label would improve the social acceptability of the truth or the lie? I said, was no labels needed. That's my view on this, and I'm interested to see what other people have to say. So, Jira 1?
That's me. So I created an image to create me a humanoid car and, put Truthport on it somewhere. And I ended up with like Transformer car, which is kind of cool, which is what I kind of feel like when it comes to these self-driving cars you're going to get. But overall, I think it was a good topic. It's good discussion post, a good discussion piece for Truthport. So you got my vote on that content topic.
So I tried the same sort of thing you tried, and then I finally said what it really is. It's like the perfect chauffeur, the perfect driver for a car. It's just the errors it makes are very human errors. It's really interesting to watch it do it. Now, if you leave it alone and let it make the kind of little error it's going to make, it will perhaps not do things the way you would do it, but it safely gets there. It doesn't stop. You've heard about these Waymos that get stuck. This car never stops. It always gets there. It'll find a way there. It may take a way to get there that you don't like, okay, or parking in a place that you don't want it to park because it's too far away from where you want to walk to or whatever, but it will get there.
The one thing, though, I don't like, though, about is what you were saying about how you have to say something else before you can name it. I think that you should be able to name it yourself if you'd like
Me
to before
too.
you
That
leave
is the
public.
purpose that is the purpose of this article. The guys at Tesla give you the ability to set a name, but you can't say, "Hey Jeff," or you can't say, "Hey Carbot." You can set a name for it, but that name does nothing.
You get to change
Doesn't.
your name on computers and stuff.
Yeah, you can
Probably
have
like
a name
that.
for your cat. You can buy a cat and change the name. So
I agree that you should be able to, our Alexa, they keep adding more names that we can change the Echo or the Alexa to. So I
really,
think they'll end up doing that. Yes, you can call it computer, you can call it Echo, you can call it Alexa and Ziggy. So we got 5 names now, and they've been adding them as they go along. So I bet you they will add that feature.
yeah,
like
I'll
that.
bet they will too. I just wanted to put the screw to them to do that.
Okay, the only thing you had it drive in really bad weather. So is there a chance that it could lose contact with the satellite system ever? Did it
So
run off the
it's
satellite?
no, it does not. So these are no, it's not learning. So because it doesn't have to learn anything, it's already learned.
Oh,
It gets software updates every day, essentially, at night or sometime.
how
Most of
does
the
it get
software
those?
it gets them over the net, but that's when it's parked. And if it's got access to the internet, it'll use the internet. It can't get software updates unless you park somewhere near where it can get internet access, or it uses AT&T. But that's for limited software updates. But to do a full-blown software update, you have to be on the internet. It has to be able to be on the internet. So you have to be near somewhere where, like a Starbucks, where it
But you can't lose contact. It's all built into it.
yeah,
So
you don't lose contact. It is operating without the back prop. It's not learning anything new.
okay. One other real short thing. It says, as far as it being acceptable, socially acceptable, it said, I asked Gemini, however, from a safety and legal standpoint, it's less acceptable as safety regulators discourage anything that might confuse the public about an autonomous system's true nature. Now that's weird.
Yeah, next week we're going to talk about the need to have a driver's license. You pass the test of interacting with FSD. I think that's necessary. I think there's no question about it. The reason is that I would think about the knowledge that I have on full self-driving on autonomous vehicles, and I have a tremendous amount of knowledge about how they operate and what they're doing. And I think about people who don't and realize these things must be incredibly confusing and scary to people, particularly people who safety experts who do not understand what they're staring at. And they don't, there's a big black box to them, and they're making up through their idea what
Okay,
computers
fear.
are, what these computers are doing. And they don't have any idea what they're really doing. The real breakthrough for Tesla with the FSD was when they went 100% neural net, as I would have predicted. And when they went 100%, shortly thereafter, the FSD was going beautifully. They really do work like humans work. Juror 3?
I'm pretty sure that's me.
Yep.
All right, so this is really fun for image generation stuff. Dale Earnhardt Drive, Mario AI Dreddy, Auto von Bismarck. That's just fun. Anyway, when it comes to the names, I think you got to be careful. It's so individual. Are you talking about like humanoid names for the entire model series?
No, just this is for your particular FSD.
Okay.
You should be able to call your chauffeur whatever name you want to call it.
Yeah.
Jim or whatever.
Yeah, I could foresee the typical anti-racist guidelines because I foresee that being a problem real quick.
You could it would be your car, so it would always answer to "Hey Grok," just like Aura. The name that Aura is in the car is Aura.
Yeah,
but it will respond to "Hey Grok" because it is Grok 2. And so you could have your own name for it that's private to you, between you and the car. But no, I'm not talking about people. Now, companies should have policies on how they can name their cars, how employees can name their car. Yeah. That should
Yeah.
be real.
Now, on a similar or on a wholly unrelated note, and yet similarly related note, I posted a link in the chat to an article from 2015 from Wired.com, where a couple of black hats or white hats really remotely killed a Jeep. And that's really where this gets me is working in the cybersecurity industry like I do, there are no guarantees. So what scares me is you're doing 70 going down the highway, and all of a sudden the screen on the vehicle flashes and goes PayPal 0.5 BTC to this wallet in the next 30 minutes, or I'm driving you into an embankment.
Yeah, it's not.
That is 100% possible.
That is 100% possible. The right answer is that there are levels of interactivity that are permitted that outside of the range of what it's permit. So
You can just switch off the FSD, can't you, when you're driving?
yes, you
Just switch it off.
If you either take control of the steering wheel and really take control of it, you have to do like this. It's not touching the steering wheel, but taking
That's right.
control.
So anyway,
Or you hit the brakes, and if you hit the brakes or take control of the steering wheel, it's your car.
So referring to Brian's blackmailing through the FSD would be stopped if you just disconnected the FSD.
If you just touch the brakes or you take control of the steering.
That was a nice 700-mile drive you had, right? Back to Philly? Was that what it was?
No, it was down from Pittsburgh to Atlanta, actually to just north of Atlanta, or from just north of Atlanta to Pittsburgh. I drove both ways. Both ways were fully automated. I'm right now at 97% of my driving since I bought the car. And I've got something close to 4,000 miles on it now. 97% was FSD.
Yeah, it's so nice. Did you maybe catch a nap while you were going?
No, I have actually built an app. This is going to be, I think, next week, where I built a nap app that tests your reaction time to make sure that you're paying attention, and also lets you take a 20-minute stop by the road. So what they do sneakily is there are Tesla superchargers, whatever they call them, the charging places. When you have the Tesla plan a trip like for 700 miles, every 2 hours or so, it puts you at a Tesla supercharger for about 20 minutes. And it suggests to you that this is a good time to take a nap.
Yeah. The presence of fail safes and the inability to sleep does go a long way towards preventing external forces. But that's really something that scares the hell out of me when it comes to these things.
Yeah, so I think that getting through to the core driving capability, there's so many things that you can do inside that car, like you can have conversations with Grok and all these other things. There's no effect on the driving at all, on the car's ability to drive at all. So the system is it's a massively parallel process. That's the reason they say that what they call the A14 chips, which is the one I have, the A13s, cars with A13s, which are cars are only 8 months old, those cannot really drive as well as the A14 chip can, that does full all neural net.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Juror 5.
This is Juror 5, I think. Am I not?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, I wanted to say I think this is quite a fun case. A lot of people do already name their cars, so it isn't a foreign concept for people. I do think, though, that possibly you say that it makes it clearer for other people to understand what you're talking about if you refer to your car by its name. I'm not sure I agree with that.
I didn't mean to say that.
Oh, I thought you were saying that. Okay.
No, I wasn't. What I was saying was that the car is so humanoid. It's so much like a person, the way it drives. Everybody, after they've ridden in these things, I've not met a single person who hadn't said this, is the car doesn't drive like they drive. The person drives, but just not their way of driving.
Yeah,
and you have to get used to that.
If you're a really bad driver, you probably think that your self-driving car is a terrible driver.
Yeah, and people actually, I haven't heard that, but I have heard, without exception, everybody says you have to get used to the way this car drives. That's the biggest thing you have to get over, because your reaction is to drive it like you drive it, or to expect it to drive like you drive. And what will come through pretty quickly. Says, oh my God, it did this. And that was the safer thing to do. Because when you're driving, it's safe the way you drive.
I think this would also these kind of cars also save a lot of bickering amongst couples. That's an advantage with them.
But will they? The backseat driver.
Oddly, I think you could ask Grok for some counseling in the car. I'm not kidding. So one of the things that I asked Grok to do with a couple of kids is teach them Spanish. And oh my God, it was listening to them and correcting their pronunciation.
It should keep its mind on the road, I believe.
No, it does it independently of keeping its mind on the road. That's the reason I was saying it doesn't.
I guess it's its own backseat driver.
It actually is listening and watching everybody in the car.
That part's more creepy.
It will, if somebody unbuckles their seatbelt, it'll give you a warning and says, somebody's unbuckled their seatbelt. You got to get them corrected or you're going to go out of self-driving.
Yeah, or there's an ejector seat maybe. Oh, okay. I wanted to say that naming your car also makes it pet-like, which, because we name our dogs and etc. And that might be useful in helping us to remember that we are responsible for the actions of our car, because we're used to knowing that we are responsible for what our pets do. And so I think that gives us a kind of psychological reminder, doesn't it?
That's a good idea.
That is the reason I wrote this article. You're naming the reason, because I believe that we should be responsible for our cars and we should be responsible just like we have to be responsible for our pets.
Oh, good. And the last thing was, I do also agree that you're quite right. It shouldn't have a human name. And that's because I think that the difference between machines and humans should never be forgotten and never be blurred.
I agree with you totally. This is the reason. That's another piece of the reason that I wrote this article. This is a really weird article to write, okay? But I came to exactly the same conclusion, which is they need their own names and they shouldn't be human names. They should be car names. And I'd made a mistake naming him Jeff because it sounds like it's a human when it's really very humanoid. But
I think it's okay to call a regular old-fashioned car by a human name, but not this kind. Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
It's a good case. I like this one.
Yeah, I like it. This is my first of several cases that are going to be on this FST stuff.
Whimsical. I was thinking I would just settle like a little boy for just vroom.
Yeah, vroom.
Just
vroom.
I'll
take vroom out for a ride.
Or maybe beep beep.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you're now getting into what those kids were getting. They went to town. I said, let's figure out names for this, and
I've been writing in the chat my ideas. I thought William was kind of a cute one.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Tyrone.
Yeah.
Swervert.
Yeah. This is amazing. So you're exactly right. This is what happens. So this is fun. Yeah. So are we on juror 7 now?
Yeah, I'm juror 6, I think. Yeah.
Juror 6.
Yeah, I got the impression from this case that actually that you thought it was very serious that we must not name these cars with human names. You mustn't anthropomorphize them in any way, because there's some kind of danger, unspecified in the case, but nevertheless suggesting that there's a danger here. Maybe there is, but I don't see how you can prevent humans from anthropomorphizing their possessions. It isn't going to happen.
I would not put any limits on what you can call your car.
Yeah.
It knows who the driver is.
Right.
That driver should be able to name it anything he wants. And then it absolutely knows who are the approved drivers. In fact, when I did take the Tesla in for a service visit after I got back just last week, and they have a way to talk to the car as if they're the driver. In other words, there's a service mode on the car. And in service mode, which they can put it in, they can talk to the car and experience the car, even though normally they would not be able to drive it.
Anyway, just carrying on with this whole idea, I was thinking of things like the genius of the Star Wars writers who come up with robots called R2-D2 and C-3PO, which are just, following in that vein, then using alphabet and numbers, you could probably name any number of models. But I'm interested in these self-driving cars because years ago, 1985, I sailed the Atlantic with a self-steering gear that was no bigger than a hand power drill attached to a little compass box, run on batteries, and it steered better than the humans. So since very early on, the sort of reaction time and sensation was going to be better than human beings. So
one of the safety things that comes out after you've been riding in the car long enough is when you notice that it reacted faster than you ever could. Coming at me in my lane. When that's 700 miles, that's enough mileage that you're particularly country roads where the car recognizes there's a car coming at it in your lane, in its lane, and it immediately, like in milliseconds, I mean, it's faster than you can think, it's ready to get off the road. And now I've never had one get close enough to me that it actually went off the road, but it was ready to go off the road.
I can believe it. But this brings me up just to two points, which is about they're not licensed in the UK yet because of roundabouts. I went through all sorts of shapes and sizes.
Went through 4 or 5 roundabouts in all of this without ever touching anything.
Oh, okay. And what about the right turn across
traffic?
By the way,
one was 6 exits.
Oh, that's good.
That was in Buckhead.
It was in the right lane as it went around.
Stayed in the right lane, the correct lane. It followed it did everything just exactly right.
So next question. How does it handle the right turn across traffic? So you're driving along and you want to turn into a road that's perpendicular to your line of thing?
It does everything correctly.
It does all that perfectly.
Problem. Another one that happened was when I was in Buckhead visiting with my brother. I had to go through. Buckhead is the financial center of Atlanta. It's all concrete. I used to live in Manhattan. It makes Manhattan look like countryside. It's pure high rise. I was going inside of Buckhead from one end of Buckhead to the other it was about 2 miles. And all of a sudden I make a turn and there's over 1,000 people. They were all Muslim, full dress Muslims, protesting with police cars around them. And the car all by itself made it through the crowd.
Wow.
With the police cars, and they were watching me.
You mean the crowd parted?
The crowd parted, yeah. It went very slowly through the crowd and made sure the crowd was parting as it was making its way through the crowd. Essentially, there was 4 or 5 different ways it could have gotten out of there, could have crossed there, and it crossed the right way to the right place to get away to get to the other place. And the crowd was watching me, and I was sitting there waving my hands like this, and they were getting
I'm not responsible.
And the police had all their lights on. So this was some kind of a protest.
No, that's good.
I don't know, Israeli protest or something. It went right through them and just no problem at all.
Oh, that is impressive. That's good. Anyway, just to conclude, my name would be Turbot.
Turbot. Juror 7.
Yeah, the first time when I went through the case, I didn't think of it as seriously. But then when I listened to everyone, then I thought, why should we not be able to name our cars then? And why should it not be something that is unique to you? It doesn't necessarily have to be like a name that sounds like a computer, because then for safety measures, if I'm in an emergency, I wouldn't want to say one long name. Maybe like something that I'm going to remember. And then the car would be like for the purpose of identification or exclusivity to that person. Say, for instance, like something in an emergency happens to this person, then Tesla should allow us to name the car, or whichever brand should be able to, for us to name the car so that you can be linked to that car. And then how can I explain it now?
There is when you can.
Is there a safe word for
I'm
it?
sorry? What?
Is there a safe word for it if you can't name anything else? Can you give it a safe word in case
the
it
safe word is
veers off?
grok. Grok or aura. When you're talking to the car and it's talking back to you, there are very limited things you can tell it to do. You can't tell it to stop, for example. You can't say stop. and it won't stop. It'll come back to you and it'll say, I cannot stop this
You
car.
have to say rock stop before it stops.
No, you won't know. It won't do it at all. I mean, you can be having a conversation with it. It will not do it. The things that you cannot order it to do. The one option that I know it has, because it gave you, there's an explicit option where you can set this, is if you're in a wreck, it will auto call 911 or not. So you can say, turn on auto call 911 if you're in an accident.
Well, if you're unable to speak, what happens then?
No, it calls 911.
Oh, okay. So it automatically detects if you've been in an accident or something like that.
It will know if it's been in an accident. You have to turn this on. By default, I think it is on, and I just didn't ever bother to turn it off, but you could turn it off too. You can say, no, I don't want to do that. There is a feature, it's called dash cam on the FSD, which is it's constantly recording the last 20 seconds of driving to a USB drive that's in your glove box, which is
kind of like a black box.
It's an encrypted, yes, it's kind of like a black box where even Tesla can't read what's written to this thing. Okay. But the dash cam can write, the car's dash cam app can write to this thing. And it's always writing the last 20 seconds of the driving. And that's for if you do get in an accident, you can access the dash cam videos, which are all of the cameras, to prove that you didn't cause the accident or the Tesla didn't cause the accident.
Well, Alexandria just pointed out a good point. What if your car gets smashed too bad that it can't activate that call? That it can't call for
then it won't. Yeah, then it won't. Because it couldn't. But the dash cam still got recorded.
Oh, okay.
Unless you do it so badly that the USB drive that's in your glove compartment got burned up or something.
I think we should just be able to name the car whatever, and then on the system it could be like maybe like a Google password or like a phone number. It's unique to that user, and then it cannot be used again. And then that way it would be easier.
No, this is not meant to be a unique name for your car. This is your name for your car, not your. So it's not going to check to see that this is a globally unique name for your car. It already has an IP address. All cars on the road today, most people don't know this, since by the year 2000, all cars anywhere in the world have a unique IP address. I don't know if y'all knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yep. They're all on the internet.
Everything after 2000 built has an IP address.
Even a Chevy, whatever, the cheapest car you could buy has it. That's been in place for years and years. And what it's used for is when you go in for service, when they plug the service thingy wire into.
I thought that was the VIN number.
No, it's actually using its IP address. It knows how to talk to the car as if it's on the internet.
That's interesting.
And that's been standardized under international standards for cars for years and years. And it's the way that they just chose to do it. And it means that every car has an IP address. And you can, in theory, talk to every car over, if you know the IP address and you know the credential to be able to talk to the car, you can talk to the car. That's been the case forever. It's amazing that people don't know that. They don't know it. Jure.
Good evening, everyone. So I really don't think autonomous vehicles need unique human-like names. I think of cars as machines that are just designed to help people travel safely, and giving them names, I don't think it makes them work better or safer. However, if people who want to name their cars should be free to do so, but it should be like a personal choice rather than something that is expected of everyone. Also, this might sound a bit closed-minded, especially for a young person like me, but I also think that some things should be kept for humans, including the way we give names. We can give cars names, but I don't think we should give them human-like names because I think of names as part of human identity and should not be treated as if machines are the same as people. I believe that the focus should stay on improving the safety and reliability of the vehicles instead of giving them human identities. Because I feel like even if a car has a name, it is still a machine and not a person. But that's just what I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like, I think my argument is it's going to be like naming dogs. You can name a dog a person's name, but most people don't. They name dogs dog names.
Yeah, even with dogs, I don't think they should be given human-like names.
Well,
There's
I knew a dog named Scott once, and I thought that was a good name for him. He was a Scottish Terrier.
okay.
We had a dog called Mackenzie. Same
Oh
thing.
gosh, was it a Scottish Terrier? That's
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So, but yeah, everybody should be free to name it, but it should recognize that name. Right now, the software in it does not recognize that this driver has this name for it, that it knows that it is a driver. I think it should be limited to, you have to be a driver of the car to be able for the car to want to talk to you by that name. Although you like for your wife, even if she's not a driver, to be able to do it. So that has to be worked out or something. Or the driver should be able to name it anything they want to name it, and then maybe there should be some control over whether the driver. It has to be the driver who's talking. It does know who the driver is, so it does know that. So, for example, I have seen it in a mode where the children were recognized as children, and it would not respond to them. But then when I would ask, can you hear what the children are saying? It would say, yes, I can hear them. And then I said, why aren't you answering their questions? And it said, I'm not allowed to answer children's questions. Okay. Crazy. That's it. So next week, we're going to have another one. Hopefully, I was thinking this was going to be a very short trial, but it turned out to be a very long.
It's been a pretty very well interesting trial.
Yeah,
Yes, a fun one. Could I just ask quickly what the attitude of the police to these cars is? What is the attitude of the police? Are they prejudiced against them? And
no, I think what I've seen is it's like that. The only real experience I had was through this crowd where I had 7 or 8 police cars staring at me. None of them waved me over or anything. None of them stopped me. No, there was no. They just treated it as, oh, some guy's driving his car through
Maybe
the
they
crowd
have some
and he's
kind of
being
warning
careful
or
and
something.
watching
Have a
you.
self-driving car approaching.
They didn't know that it was self-driving. So there is a country in Europe. Oh no, it's China. If you've got a self-driving car in China, it has to have a blue light. It's a blue stripe that lights up if it's self-driving on the front of the car. In other words, there in Chinese law, if you've got a self-driving car, when it's in self-driving, it has to announce itself as self-driving, and everybody knows the blue stripe means that it's currently self-driving. But unless you noticed me waving my hands like this while I was driving, you do not know that it's self-driving. There's no indication on the outside of the car that it's self-driving. And the police, as far as I know, did not. I was waving my hands to some people in front of me. I didn't look around to see what the police were doing, like getting on their things and talking to somebody or something. But they left the car, right?
Yeah, actually, that is a good point. They do need to be signed in some way, don't you think?
You would like to, so I think there's an argument. So the Chinese decided to have a standardized way that every car that's self-driving needs to be marked while it's self-driving with this light. And it's a little blue stripe on the front of the car. There's a lit stripe, LED lit stripe, and that's under law. I personally have no opinion one way or the other. I think that I don't necessarily see that's important because it does drive just like a person drives.
No,
And
no.
it really
It could be a
does.
little icon of a torso with the arms folded.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, and they should give you the ability, which they don't. They should give you the ability to turn on self-driving notification for other people. So I do believe that I should have the ability to selector that says when I'm driving, when I'm having the car drive for me, I want it to notify everybody that the car is self-driving.
Yeah.
I might try that for fun to see what would happen if it would affect other people. But generally speaking, you can't look at how the car is driving and know that it's self-driving. It's driving just like another person drives.
Yeah. I gotta run, y'all.
Yeah. So we'll see y'all next week.
Okay, bye everyone.
Philip, bye.
I gotta run, Bob.
Okay, see you.
Bye bye. Thank you. Nice to talk to everyone.
Yeah, me too.